Hi everyone, this is Mr. Frykowski, and today we're going to be looking at the last part of interest groups, part 3, and this will be looking at lobbyists as well as 527 organizations. But again, just to reinforce the idea by type, if you look at 1959, the predominant number of interest groups were trade organizations, 39%. Fast forward to 1995, you're going to notice that trade groups, although still the dominant type, have shrunk from 39% to 18%. And you see how it's very, very splintered. So to someone who is a hyper pluralist, they might see that, oh my goodness, you're going to have so many conflicting policies. This is going to lead to policy gridlock. Yet to someone who's just a pluralist, they're going to say, wow, this is a really good thing. You have a number of trade organizations. You have a number of different interest groups ranging from education to agriculture to science. It's a good thing that you have a lot of competition. So it really depends on your viewpoint. But again, trade still the dominant one, but by not that much as it used to be in 1959, and they've really begun to explode since the 1960s and the 1970s. Now, 527 organizations are basically a branch off of interest groups. They are sort of not as relevant anymore with the rise of super PACs, as we've discussed in other video lectures. But a 527 organization is a tax-exempt group formed primarily to influence elections through voter mobilization efforts and issue ads that do not directly endorse or oppose a candidate. Again, that's a big part right here. They do not directly endorse or oppose a candidate. So unlike political action committees, 527s are not subject to contribution limits or spending caps. So that's a huge advantage of 527s, but again, they cannot directly endorse or oppose a candidate. And just to give you an idea as to how much is spent, $300 million just in 2012, and that's not including PAC spending or super PAC spending. So certainly a huge amount of money being spent. And you'll notice too that out of the top 10 527 organizations, you'll see that really Democrats and Republicans benefit. It's not just Republicans. Many people think that interest groups are just benefiting Republicans because Republicans are about big business. But you'll see that there are actually more Democratic groups being represented in the top 10. So for example, the Gay and Lesbian Victory Fund, $3.8 million going to Democrats. Citizens United, which brought about the super PAC, Republicans, $8.1 million. So certainly you see a number of 527 organizations split across the board with their contributions. Now, interest groups hire what are called lobbyists. And when you engage in lobbying, and this is sort of the prevailing thought by the mainstream, citizen here. Definition, verb, legally bribing and or extorting an elected official. And in a sense, it's sort of like legalized bribery, but on the other hand, you'll see that there are actual legitimate functions of lobbyists. So lobbying by definition is communication by someone other than a citizen acting on his own behalf, directed to a governmental decision maker with the hope of influencing his decision. So, for example, let's take the Gay and Lesbian Victory Alliance. They hire a lobbyist. They're going to meet with many politicians who, when let's say gay marriage comes out to a vote, they might say, you should really, vote in favor of gay marriage because a lot of my constituents would vote for you. A lot of the people I'm, essentially advocating for would vote for you. We will toss money your way. And when I mean money, I mean campaign donations. If you were to actually give that person money, that politician, that would be against the law. But essentially, lobbyists are the middleman between the interest group and the politician, who's essentially the one that's going to be voting on the policy. So there are two types of lobbyists. You have the regular paid employees. Those are typically going to represent large interest groups from corporations, businesses, unions, which have millions, if not billions of dollars. And then you also have ones that are temporary hires. Those are small interest groups that are limited with their finances, so they can't always have a lobbyist on call. But there are, again, major functions to lobbyists. They are a source of information. If you're advocating for, let's just say, agriculture, the agricultural industry, and you're going to a congressman or congresswoman who is not well versed in agriculture, well, the lobbyist is going to provide them with information, statistics, data, depending on how they're trying to shape policy. They do help politicians plan political strategies for legislation. So saying if you include this in the bill, well, then you can get other people to support this. They also help them with re-election campaigns, where to focus, how to get the farmers support. If, again, you're representing farmers, or if you're representing auto workers, how to get the auto workers vote or the teachers vote. So they're very instrumental there. Our constituents will support you if you do this, this, and that. Very important. Lobbyists can also be a source of new ideas and innovation. And overall, there is mixed evidence that lobbying works. It's very difficult to tell because, again, you have so many different interest groups. They all have essentially lobbyists, and some win, some don't. So, again, the evidence, isn't conclusive at this point, but certainly people are spending lots of money on lobbyists, $2 billion in Washington. So, lobbyists, again, represent the interests of organizations. Some lobbyists are former members of Congress. That makes sense. They know how the game is played. They have connections. And sometimes lobbyists will issue scorecards for congressional elections and for candidates. So, for example, the NRA lists, scores. So someone like Congressman Scott Garrett, who will have an A+ on gun rights, as they say, whereas someone like Cory Booker might have an F, who doesn't support it as well. Another form of lobbying is called grassroots lobbying, and this refers to computerized mailings to encourage citizens to pressure representatives on an issue. So you can actually lobby citizens. Sometimes with grassroots lobbying, you have essentially people who are supporting a particular candidate going door to door. Grassroots, right? It's very organic. And some say that's why President Obama won his election campaign back in 2008, because he was a great grassroots lobbyist and was able to mobilize a lot of citizens to also do grassroots lobbying themselves. Now, in 1995, because lobbyists have a very negative connotation, there was a law issued. I think it was something along the lines of the Lobbying Disclosure Act, something along that nature. The name's not terribly important. But what it essentially required lobbyists to do is to report issues that they're seeking influence on, how much they are spending, disclose who their clients are, and they are not allowed to give gifts or pay for meals, expensive dinners, or anything like that. All that is completely illegal. So there is some regulation on lobbyists. Now, what role do lobbyists play? Looking at this political cartoon, again, a very negative connotation, but here you have the special interest group. It could be a lobbyist here, right? And Congressman, here's your bill. Notice the dollar bill or the monetary bill being exchanged for a law in Congress policy. Here's your law. Again, not 100% correct, but one could see their point there. And then you also have electioneering being part of interest groups, direct group involvement in the election process. So groups will sometimes help fund campaigns. This can be through 527s, this can be through PACs, super PACs now. They also provide testimony and get members to work for candidates. Again, as I just said before, some form PACs. Again, the political funding vehicles created by the 1974 FICA law, if you will, the campaign finance reforms. So they're used by interest groups to donate money to candidates. Again, PACs are very important for candidates in this time where elections cost millions of dollars. You're probably going to need the support of PACs and 527s. So most PACs today will support incumbents because, remember, incumbents have a 90% re-election rate in the House, a little bit lower in the Senate. But again, you can see this in 1999 to 2000, $134 million to incumbents, and contrast that to $17 million to challengers. It very much pales in comparison. In addition, interest groups. If they fail in one area to influence policy, the courts can actually provide another avenue. So interest groups can file what's called an amicus curiae brief, which literally translates, it's Latin for friend of the court. And you literally provide this to the court, and you're raising additional viewpoints, and you're presenting information that may not have been contained in the original litigation or the lawsuit. So again, even in that way, they can influence the outcome of Supreme Court decisions. So the judicial branch isn't necessarily immune to interest groups either. Interest groups sometimes will file class action lawsuits. So again, this permits a small number of people to sue on behalf of all people similar situated. So this is very common with consumer groups, especially against the airlines, or if there's a defect, let's say with a car, this is where you tend to see class action lawsuits. So interest groups very much do play a role in terms of litigation. In addition, going public, because public opinion makes its way onto policymakers, we will see these interest groups try to essentially have a good public image, saying we're advocating for you members in our group. They will also use marketing strategies, just like any campaign would have done for a political candidate to influence public opinion. They will advertise, they will inform the public, they will try to motivate, get out there, contact your congressman, contact your congresswoman. So certainly going public is important to maintaining a good image. And then just in summary, again, you have many different theories concerning interest groups, and we've talked about those. And there's a number of factors that influence a group's success. For example, the smaller you are, sometimes that might be better, more beneficial thing. And also think about money and intensity is, of course, very important. And then interest groups affect the policy process by lobbying, electioneering, litigation, and of course, going public. Okay, so that concludes our lecture on interest groups. Thank you.